Good morning, everybody. Happy Hump Day. Welcome to the news agenda with me, Fleet Street Fox, and today I'm joined by the Mirror's royal editor, Russell Myers, everyone. Good morning, Russell. Well, we're going to go through the most interesting stories of the day. We're going to talk about the worst Christmas tree you've ever seen, and we're going to talk about the two luckiest guinea pigs on Earth. And through it all, we want you to ask us your questions. Get into the comments, ask us whatever's on your mind about anything in the news today, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. So let's get straight to it. With the Mirror's front page today, which is reporting on the Buckingham Palace announcement yesterday that the Queen will be spending Christmas with Philip alone at Windsor Castle. Russell's got a story in the paper, everyone. Hey, now Russell, tell us what's happening.
My Queen accent isn't as good as yours, Susie, so I'll probably refrain from doing it. However, I can report that, the decision has been made for the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh are going to stay at Windsor Castle. Now, they've been there for quite a few months. They had a brief break in Sandringham and in Balmoral when they popped up to Scotland for 6 weeks, and they have been back to Sandringham on occasion, where Prince Philip has been spending most of his retirement since 2017. However, it's as the family normally go over to Sandringham, it's a massive Christmas affair for the royals. They normally go sort of a couple of weeks before Christmas, and then all the family arrive on Christmas Eve. Staggered times are given, and they arrive in order of seniority. The lower ones arrive first, and then you've got the more senior ones arriving to the
opposite big of every other family when the kids come in late.
Exactly, yeah. And they're just like us, the royals, aren't they? So they have this big old affair, which they've been doing since 1988. The fact the royal family did actually used to spend all their Christmases at Windsor Castle. When the Queen had young children, sort of back in the 60s and 70s, They all used to gather at Windsor Castle. Then Windsor had a massive big refitting, a big wire refit in 1988, which took many years. And the Queen then took all the family over to Sandringham, and that's in Norfolk, and that's where they've been ever since. So we normally do see them on Christmas Day. They're sort of walking to church. They have breakfast about 8:30 in the morning. Then they walk up to church, and all the well-wishers. It's an extraordinary scene, actually. I've been there before, and you get. I thought there'd be a couple of stragglers, but there are thousands and thousands of people that join the royal family or sort of join up to view them. There's people that travel over from America, all around Europe. They queue up from 2 in the morning just to get a sight of the royals. There's not so queer as folk, is there? It's a bizarre event when you go to royal events, I can tell you. And then they sort of, all the royal family go to church, and then they sort of meet all the people. And I've seen a proposal outside Sandringham whilst the Queen is walking past. Meghan Markle stole the show a few years ago when it was her first turn to turn up in 2017. Now, the reason they're actually doing this is because the Queen and Prince Philip has essentially been isolating in Windsor Castle since March. They did go up to, as I say, Balmoral for a quick.
Can I just cut in there, Russell? They're isolating with just 1 or 2 chefs, some valets, housekeepers, handmaidens, butlers, pantry staff, clock winders, and a massive security detail.
And the rest. Well, this is the issue, right? So the Queen actually did want to go back to Sandringham, not wishing to, change the state of play too much, and especially. I think a lot of families want together at Christmas, isn't it? And given their due, the royal family are probably no different in that sense. They haven't been able to see each other quite often, as many of us haven't. So the Queen did actually want to have the family get together in Sandringham. However, obviously the Queen is 94, Prince Philip is 99. They are in the at-risk category. Prince Philip has obviously had his much reported health problems over the last few years. So that's why they actually bubbled together in Windsor Castle rather than being split up, because actually there isn't enough staff to deal with them. There are probably the odd dozen here or there. But spare a thought for the staff as well, because they were being told that they were having to isolate away from their families. It's called HMS Bubble, is the operation that's been dubbed, and essentially they've all had to isolate away from their loved ones, and they were going to have to do the same again, so the Queen and her family could do the same at Christmas. However, so the Queen said, "Listen, you've all had a pretty tough time. I do realise there are other, what does she call it? She called it
compromising
demands from the rest of the family. And so that she's taken the decision to say, listen, there won't be any pressure to see me over Christmas. Go and do as you will. I imagine the Cambridges will go over to sort of Kate Middleton's family in Bucklebury, and the rest of them will be split up over Christmas. So yes, it will be a lonely Christmas for the Queen and Prince Philip this year.
Just the 20 or 30 people with them then. So as Jessica asked, now what do you think of The Crown TV series on Netflix? Personally, Jessica, I watched the first season and thought it was really interesting the way it brought the past back to life, especially some of the special little vignettes about things like the Great Smog in the 1950s. It was in London. But when you bring it further forward, there's fewer historical things to really reheat that we don't know about. And it's just really a series of impressions. What do you think, Russell? Like my impression, I could do the Queen.
Well, indeed, you could get a job. So, well, I love it. I mean, I've loved The Crown. I sort of fell out of love with it probably about season 3, and now I'm back in love with it. I think it's absolutely fantastically shot. It's a wonderful drama. However, it's been hugely controversial over the last couple of weeks, and I think that's mainly because it's so fresh in the memory, isn't it? Charles and Diana, the very graphic scenes of Diana's battle with bulimia. Charles comes across as an absolute tyrant, which I'm not too sure is an accurate depiction of what he is. And I know that a lot of people in his camp are absolutely furious about how he's been depicted. And then you've got sort of government ministers wading in saying that we should have a health warning with it. I mean, I'm sitting on the fence with this one. I think, people need to calm down. I suppose the issue is
we have other programs, don't we, that are people that are live. We had one about the Brexit referendum campaign. We've had other things which are very relevant and up to date. We've had real-time movies and things like that, which are about real people and real life. And they don't, some of them they do actually, they're based on books written by the people concerned, as opposed to using the newspaper headlines, because we don't hear very often from the people concerned. But roll with it.
Well, one of the other things is that sort of Clarence House were absolutely bombarded on their social media streams with sort of hate mail for Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, who, comes across as quite a ruthless, very confident character, that she was sort of playing Diana, in order to sort of keep Charles's affections. I don't think that is anywhere near the truth, to be honest with you. I think that Charles, from speaking to people who were around at that time, Charles actually did love Diana very much. And, we all know what happened within the relationship. They both cheated on each other, as they publicly stated. And, we just don't need this issue coming to the fore again. And that's why they had to momentarily shut off all the comments, which is just ridiculous. People, be kind, people, and don't take it for, on face value. It's just a drama. So calm down.
Yes. Now, Louise asks, and help us with this, Russell, is the Queen still going to do her speech? She's probably done it already, isn't she? They usually pre-record these things.
Yes, I don't think she's done it already, but she will be. She'll probably do it a week before Christmas. It will probably be recorded at Windsor, just like she did.
It's a very trying year for us all.
Well, she did a couple of speeches during the coronavirus crisis where she made those statements. We will meet again, talking about the fact the country all coming together, invoking sort of the wartime spirit. So, yes, she will be doing it from Windsor Castle. I imagine the family will be gathered around their various TV sets wherever they are, and that's not normally happens. They sort of have lunch and then watch the Queen's speech all together, but they're going to be split up all this year.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure that she probably had an awful lot of choice about the Christmas thing at Windsor Castle, because as you said, some of her staff were a little bit unhappy about bubbling or isolating before they had to be with the Queen at Christmas, because they wouldn't see their families before they could see the Queen and work for her at Christmas. They didn't see their families at all for like a month, as a possibility of a mutiny with them. And then, of course, there's also the issue that, you're allowed to bubble with 3 households, but she's got 4 children, and they usually have a dozen different households perhaps over to Sandringham for Christmas, and she's got to choose between one of them. And there's all the crowds at Sandringham Church. She couldn't really be responsible for, those thousands of people. They would still turn up if they thought she was at Sandringham, wouldn't they? And they, possibility of someone getting corona in that crowd and then carking it would not be a good look.
No, it wouldn't at all. And it's not, I think the staff have had a pretty rough deal, to be honest. They have, imagine sort of guarding the Queen and making sure that she doesn't fall ill, especially Philip as well. I mean, the Queen's 94, Philip's 99, and it's a proper military operation that's had to be carried out, especially when they sort of up sticks from Windsor Castle, had it all set in place, and then they went to Balmoral for 6 weeks. They definitely didn't want to do that again. And again, you know, the Queen didn't want to be responsible for you know, these thousands of people that do gather in Sandringham to watch the royal family over Christmas. So there won't be, and the Queen won't be going to church publicly at Windsor Castle. There is obviously a private chapel within the grounds, as all, you know, respectable houses do have, and so it'll be very much a private affair. But yeah, you know, they're dealing with a changing situation every day, as we are sort of every week. You know, we're listening to the coronavirus vaccine coming out this week, and I imagine that the royal family will be keen to see what happens next year, because they haven't been able to do a lot other than on Zoom this year. We haven't had any royal tours, and people like to see the Queen out and about. You know, there's many thousands of people that do turn up when she's out and about. So so hopefully we'll get out on more things to do next year.
Well, I assume for that reason, if for no other, she'll be one of the first in the queue for the vaccine. One would have thought.
Well, you would think, but however, de facto, she's 94 as well, so I think she'd probably be in that sort of higher at-risk category.
She's on the list anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so one would imagine that she'll be right up there, sort of front and centre anyway.
Exactly. Keep asking us your questions, everybody. We do want to know what you think about things and what you're doing for your Christmas, perhaps. Let's all share that. And Jessica asks, are Harry and Meghan coming back for Christmas? That's a big no.
Yeah. That is a big no, and gosh, God knows when we're going to see them back in the UK. To be honest with you, there's you know, they seem to be loving life in LA, popping up on our screens, telling us about how to live our lives every now and then. However, Harry looked very well yesterday. I mean, the sun is obviously doing wonders for him in LA. He was talking on a sort of new Netflix climate change channel. The name escapes me. However, he was sort of popping up saying everyone needs to act like a raindrop. It's full of folly in today's papers. I mean, he's getting a bit sort of airy fairy, I think someone said.
He's going a bit California, isn't he?
He very much is. Yeah, I don't know. You know, his wife's sort of rubbing off on him, definitely. However, no, they won't be coming home for Christmas. There was an option that before they've handed over the keys to their place in Windsor, Frogmore Cottage, they've now let Princess Eugenie and her husband Jack move in there. Eugenie's pregnant, she's heavily pregnant. I think she's due in sort of late February, March time. There was an option that Harry was just going to come back on his own. And I think that tells you quite a lot about Meghan's view of how she was treated over here by the royal family. I do not think we will see her come back anytime soon. However, she's still kept a lot of interest. She's still got her patronage with the National Theatre. She's still involved with a couple of charities over here. So who knows? I think that's the question that we're all asking is when will we see them again? But I don't think it will be anytime soon.
When will we see you?
Indeed.
Now Tracy asked, Tracy Chapman, not that one, was the Crown filmed at royal locations such as the Palace and so on? We're just getting a lot of Crown interest this morning, Russell.
Everyone's obsessed with it. That's why.
I think the answer is no. What is it? What's the answer, Russell?
No, the answer is no. I meant to look this up actually, because the Balmoral scene is absolutely tremendous, and that obviously isn't Balmoral Castle, but it's something that looks very, very similar. I did see a couple of videos on YouTube. They were talking about locations and whatnot. The Lord Mountbatten location, where his place was, I think it's in Sligo, where he was bombed on by the IRA on his boat. That is actually filmed on location, but most of the palaces aren't, and you'll probably get sort of very grand sort of stately homes that they've been filming in. But it's the location aspect of it is absolutely fabulous, and that's obviously why people buy into it so much and believe that it's real life.
Well, this is the thing. If you saw really what it's like inside Sandringham, I remember about 1,000 years ago, and I had a brief stint as a really not bothered royal reporter, writing about Sandringham. They had a little one-person lift that goes up and down between the floors, and it was completely knackered. Just at the run up to Christmas, I think it was. The inside of the actual royal palaces, Buckingham Palace as well, constantly being refitted, constantly have bits falling off. Whereas Netflix, they've paid to have an actual palace, which is still a palace and looks very royal. Whereas if you saw inside where the Queen and the Royals are really living, you'd think this is like Shameless.
Yeah, they're doing a big refit. It's which has caught a load of controversy at the moment. I think it's costing £370 odd million over the next 10 years, and obviously we're picking up the bill, which is paid for by our taxes, but the money that gets given back to the family. However, most of Buckingham Palace is it's a working palace. So not only does the Queen sort of live in some quarters, but there's huge state rooms. There's but all the workings of it date back to the Victorian era. So they're constantly sort of mice running around the palace, and there's dodgy pipe work, and it's mostly freezing cold in there. So, however, listen, I'm sure the royals aren't slumming it. So let's no,
they are billionaires. Let's face it. Well, the Prince Charles is a billionaire. The Queen is halfway to being a billionaire, I think, and she literally owns all the land we sit on. And Jessica asks, "What do the royals think of the series?" Nothing good, as I think we've mentioned.
So now I understand that the Queen and Philip did see previous series, but they're not checking out this series. Friends of Prince Charles were saying in a lot of newspaper coverage recently about how angered he was at his portrayal. Now, he hasn't ever watched it, so he says, and he's apparently not going to watch this series. And I probably advise him not to, because he doesn't come off very well at all. Certainly the younger members of the family, William and Harry, had watched it. I think it was very enjoyable. This, previous series, but this series is very, very close to home, isn't it? And now that they might do a fifth and even a sixth, you can imagine the scandal that we've had.
The Harry and Meghan stuff that will end up in that one.
Imagine doing the Prince Andrew scandal as well. It's it's going to run and run. I mean, they had previously said that they were going to stop at maybe 4 or 5, and now that they're saying that they're going to do number 6, I can't imagine that any of the royals are going to be watching it, because they'll be watching, behind their hands, behind the sofa, and trying to dodge everything on any sort of column inches that are covered on it, because I imagine it'll be very, very uncomfortable watching.
Yeah, and Andrew might be going back to the actual story of the day that we're talking about, which isn't the Crown, everybody, for those of us asking questions. Going back to the story of the day, am I right in thinking it's much easier for Prince Andrew to get from his home at Royal Lodge in Windsor to Windsor Castle without being spotted by the press than it is for Prince Andrew to drive into the gates of Sandringham to see his mum for Christmas, when he's going to go past public road and past everyone?
Well, there was a story actually in one of the papers recently about how Prince Andrew had been having sort of secret clandestine meetings under the cloak of darkness with his
mum.
Yeah, with his mum. I mean, who incidentally he probably needed to make an appointment to go and see. This is the sort of way that the royals work. I mean, yeah, it probably is a lot easier, isn't it? He just lives down the road in his sort of grace and favour abode, Royal Lodge, who bizarrely still lives there with his ex-wife, Fergie. I'm told that the two girls, very, very normal setup. The two girls are going to come and see him for Christmas. As I said, Eugenie's pregnant with their, and Beatrice was recently married. So it's a lot easier for them to bubble up as a 3. And then they'll probably go, walk down the road to Windsor Castle, maybe wave at Granny outside the window. But I think that's what it's going to be, unless sort of you've got Prince Edward and Sophie Wessex and their kids who are sort of older, so they can probably socially distance a bit better. They might then sort of be able to bubble up with the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh. But the rest of them, Charles and Camilla, have said that they would like to see the Queen and Philip over Christmas, but it will probably be socially distanced, outside, wave through the window, because Camilla's already said that she's going to see her family over Christmas.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, isn't it, as well? It's totally the Queen's turn to have a Christmas on her own, because she's had 30 years where she demands people come to her and forget their other families. And, Kate Middleton has never seen, since she got married, her own parents at Christmas, I think, and it's the one or two occasions when they're invited to Sandringham, and the others, they have to forego their in-laws or other things in order to be at Sandringham at Christmas. It's the thing. So for the Queen to turn around and say, "I recognise you have competing demands," well, yes, love, every year.
Well, this is I think the Middletons
we all have to share our families, don't we?
William and Kate have gone to the Middletons a couple of times. However, there was a big load of controversy when Harry and Meghan had spent 2017. Now, you normally don't get an invite unless it's no ring, no bring normally. But then Meghan broke the mould by being invited in 2017 before they were married. Then they went back in 2018 and then sacked it off for 2019. It was a big, Queen, they've snubbed the Queen. Well, God, there are dozens of people knocking around there for Christmas. So I don't think they missed, 2 or 3, had the little boy by then. So they just wanted to have a time in the run. So you're right. The Queen has probably said, like a lot of other families, traveling all around the country, it's probably not the best thing to be doing. A lot of people have very staunch views on whether we should be, completely upending our life and driving all around the country whilst there's still a pandemic going on. So the Queen is leading from the front in this sense.
She's not going to do a Rita Ora, is she? Thank God. And keep asking us your questions, everybody. We want to hear what's going on. And in particular, I want to hear about whether or not you have your Christmas trees up. In this house, Christmas has started, Christmas music is on, and we're watching Elf every day, and that's just how it is. Now, we want to go to the Christmas tree story that's on the Mirror's page 3 today, and they've got some of the most gaudy and awful and appalling trees you can imagine. Holly Willoughby there, the main picture, has got more snowballs on her tree than you'd find in an actual snowball fight. Colleen Rooney, which you can't really see, it's up in the top right, has actual ice skates hanging off hers. Joan Collins is actually a model of taste and decency, which I'm quite amazed by, as I'm sure we all are. Russell, I have noticed you don't have any Christmas trees up in the cell that you are living in.
I know. We are potentially moving house, so I've told my wife that we won't be able to have a Christmas tree because it will just cause havoc. And so, yes, I am officially the Grinch of Christmas this year. I mean, maybe we'll put some holly up or a wreath.
You're trying to dig your way out of it now. Number one, you've told your wife. No, you negotiate and compromise.
I know, it's awful, isn't it? It's like I'm ordering her like a toy.
I hate
we have reached we have reached an agreement that we won't have a tree.
It sounds like you've reached a disagreement.
We are not here over Christmas anyway. So, yes.
Jessica there said she's put her Christmas trees up. She's very excited. And I've got a brief story I want to tell you about this. Right? You may think your Christmas trees come from the shop or from the loft or wherever it is you get them. They don't. They come from a man called Winfrith, who was born in Devon in the 9th century, and he became a monk and then a bishop, and he went to Germany to convert the Goths, Marilyn Manson or whatever, to convert them to Christianity. And when he got there, the German Goths were worshipping an oak tree. And he said, you don't want to do that because it gets naked once a year, and that's not very Christian. It loses all its leaves. He chopped the oak tree down, right? And the Goths lost their minds and chopped Winfrith up. By this point, Winfrith had taken the Latin name Boniface. That's how I know about all this, okay? And then eventually he became a saint. And people started taking the saint's name to cover up the fact they were a bit Irish or a bit Huguenot or a bit immigrant in this country. It's never been very welcome, which is how I appeared on the scene. But in the meantime, the German Goths decided that maybe he had a point. And they started worshipping, instead of the oak tree, Boniface had said to them, you need to worship the fir tree because it is evergreen like Jesus' love. And it's a triangle like the Holy Trinity. And so the Goths started bringing the fir tree indoors at Christmas to celebrate Christmas. They hung apples off it to mimic the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. And over time, this turned into baubles and decorations and everything else. And then, wait for it, Prince Albert married Queen Victoria and in 1840 put up a tree at wherever it was, Windsor Castle, and it became the fashion for everyone in the British Empire. Oh, we must have a tree like Prince Albert and Queen Victoria. And that's why we have Christmas trees. It spread around the British Empire because of Prince Albert, but it started with St. Boniface. Do you know the next of this story, Russell?
So I did know the Prince Albert aspect of it, but I didn't know the sort of back and Winifred and Boniface. I didn't know any of that. So,
I've educated us all.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Now, number one, they should be called Boniface trees. I'm just going to start that.
Well, they will be from now on.
Yeah. And number two, royalties are payable in chocolate money. And you will totally owe me back taxes. So just send me some. It's fine. Every year I say this, I never get chocolate money. It's crap. And Russell, put your tree up.
You've shamed me to the nation now. So, I'll be having to put the tree up.
Mrs. Myers can send me her thanks. I want to talk about the worst tree, if our little social media gremlins can put the picture up again, this is a picture of a tree that's been in the loft for 100 years, and it's got passed down the family, and it is a bit pathetic, but they have still done, the lady who owns it here, Kay Ashton, has still done exactly what's needed on a Boniface tree, and which Holly Willoughby did and Colleen Rooney did, which is decorate it with some tat. That's what the Victorians did. That's why it's so gaudy. The Victorians had no taste. So that's a fascinating story.
I love it. I prefer the tree. I prefer it because I also don't think any of the celebrities are decorating their own tree. They probably get someone in to decorate it for them. They're far too fancy. And you know, look at this. I mean, look at the Rooney's tree. That's, you know, that's a professional job.
I think Holly Willoughby's there. It's got white bits in. It's got green bits in. It's got all these baubles on. You can't hang those on the end of a frond with a child. That is definitely a construction that someone's bought, if you ask me. Now, keep asking us your questions. We're going to go to our final story of the day, which is about these two lucky guinea pigs. But in the meantime, get your last questions in. Anything you want to hear, ask him whatever's on your mind. This is the story of the day, and this is about these two amazing guinea pigs. Now, they were in a box that was taped up on top of a bin, and the bin lorry was trundling down the road in the way that it does. And a lady came outside, doesn't want to be named, a lady came outside to put her waste in the bin and realised this box was moving about. So she looked inside, and these two guinea pigs looked up at her. And she saved them. They're now at a rescue centre, but they were skin and bone, and they've been fed up. There they are, and they've been called Jingle and Noel. Very
nice. Goodwill to all men and guinea pigs.
Exactly. And if you want to get rid of your pets, people, don't throw them in a box and put them in a bin.
Oh, for the love of God! And especially cute guinea pigs.
Exactly. And this lady says, and a short while later, she'd been a few seconds later, they would have been crushed to death. So as we like, it's a nice Christmas animal rescue story, as well as thoughts of what the Queen's doing for Christmas, which is pretty much about the same as everything else. Now, I want to say thank you, Russell, for joining us.
Thank you very much
for all your questions. And Russell, get that tree up, please.
I will. You've changed me now. I will.
There we go. And one final thought. I didn't sleep all night long. When I woke up, I realised I had my pyjamas on inside out. And that just proves that sometimes your brain knows stuff that you don't. So that's a thought for the day to think about for the rest of the day. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.